It's the current best one on Unschooling. And then there's also the website Joyfully Rejoicing, and rejoicing is spelled like the woman's name, Joyce.com. And when we were first putting a name to what unschooling was over homeschooling, I followed that woman just like crazy, and I went to her website over and over again, especially when I had questions about anything. So I highly recommend those, in addition to everything that's already on.
And you can set it up, it'll come to your inbox. And how often does she?
Not at all anymore, I don't think.
Living joyfully.
But it's set up with just questions on the side, and then the answers will pop up in the middle, and so you can just go question by question. It's amazing.
If you go there, you'll kind of find.
So it's joyfully, and then rejoicing is spelled like the woman's name, Joyce, because her name is Joyce. So, in addition, of course, to everything.
And I just want to add, I put this on, I think on the resource thing, but something that my husband and I did that we learned very early on at a homeschooling conference, which helped us kind of get unschooling, and then I'll get to Deni's question, which is basically we went away for a weekend without our kids. You don't have to do it that way, but that was kind of a good excuse for us to get away from the kids, and that I love very much. And we took pieces of paper, each of us, just lined pieces of paper, 2 separate sets with math on one, and history, science, language arts, there we go, and like a miscellaneous. And we each spent some time writing down what we thought our kids, even my daughter who was being public schooled, we thought they should know when they were going to leave us and be on their own, and what was important we thought that they should get. And I totally expected that my engineering husband would be like, well, she needs to know, advanced calculus and periodic tables and all of these things that I don't know personally myself. And when we came back together to look at them, it was really the basics. Yes, we also, like Nancy had mentioned, we think it's important that they can write, because you need to write a resume perhaps at some point, or fill out an application for something. And we think basic math would be awesome, so that they will balance their checkbook later and not keep coming back to us and borrowing money. And maybe some sewing skills would be cool, and car maintenance, and the real kind of basic things that I actually didn't learn until I was an adult, and I wish I had actually been learning all the way through. And what we did was, at the beginning, we don't really religiously follow this now, but at the beginning, when we first were starting, we kind of put that all together and said, okay, she's, at the time, I think my daughter was maybe 4, something like that. We said, well, we've got from 4 to, 16 to 18 maybe before she leaves. That's an awful long time. Do we have to cram it all in now? No, we have all of these years to figure out about trying to work in the basic cooking skills and other things. And so, in the back of my mind, it's not a rigorous curriculum. It's just kind of in the back of my mind that, well, if we're going to make cookies and you're measuring, there's some math being thrown in, and with fractions and things. When we go shopping and we have a budget, like I'm sure many of you do, how do we budget all of the food that we're going to buy? Or we can't just go buy the fancy pair of shorts we want if we have a clothing budget for the year of just a certain amount. And so those things kind of helped us go, oh, okay, we don't have to cram in 12 years of math, when really to us what we would like her to know is some basic algebra. And maybe she'll pick that up when she goes to college. Maybe she'll take a class. Maybe she'll get on Khan Academy and learn it online. But we just felt a lot more relaxed and kind of took a breath and go, okay, it's going to be all right. And the other thing I really recommend, and it's a little more difficult on the road, but is to see if you can find a group, whether it's online or a part-day group or just other people who are road schooling you encounter, for support. Because you are going to sometimes have doubts that come in and go, because somebody might say something, or you see some statistics that come out that, it's really difficult to get a job even with a master's, and oh my gosh, what are you going to do with your child? It just helps if you have some other parents who get it. It's hard sometimes when everyone else around you is traditionally schooling, and like Greg was saying, they're kind of looking at you like, well, why is your kid inside on, Minecraft for 12 hours, like my daughter is. So, the support system is really important, whether, like I said, whether it's online or in person or something like that. So, anyways, Denai, you had a question.
I do. I guess a fear for me, and probably a few other parents that I've spoken with, is how do you prepare for the possibility that your child might choose a career path that's going to make them go down the intense academic path, I guess. Let's say your kid wants to be a neurosurgeon, or let's say your kid wants to be an astrologer. How do you prepare for something like that?
Yes, Nancy, go ahead.
I'd love to address this one.
Okay.
My sons are very intense academically. They are taking AP classes right now. One of my sons was the youngest kid in Boise to take the AP calculus exam a couple of years ago. I think you'll know. I think that from my experience looking at my kids, and as a teacher, when I was in the classroom, I knew which kids were going to be going that route, and then I could direct them. So we knew from a very, very early age that probably both of our kids, but certainly one of them, there was no question in our mind that he would be in one of those, some sort of a mathematician, engineering, some sort of thing. And so you look for opportunities to help him go that route. And so, like I said, we have chosen at this point, well, our kids have chosen to take classes. So they are actually full-time at school, taking all math and science and engineering classes. Like that's what they are doing, and they love it. So I think you'll know. You'll know if your kid is looking more at some sort of more of a entrepreneur or a physical job versus more of an academic one. And if it does look like your kid is definitely involved or wanting that more academic, rigorous academic, then they'll want it at that younger age as well, and they'll be asking for workbooks or classes. And personally, I think that's perfectly fine. I know that there are some unschoolers who say, no, my kid will never go to school. I think you're really limiting your kid if you're going to rule that out as an option. Because the reality is that there's good things about school, there's good things about taking classes, online classes, there's good things about having textbooks. All of those are fine, but you pay attention to your kid, pay attention to where your kid's strengths are, your kid's interests are, and it's amazing how they will direct you where they want to go.
Zoe or Greg, do you have any input on that?
I agree with everything she said.
Okay.
You just kind of go as far as you are able to take your child, and if they want to go further, then you find the resources for them.
And I'll say, having a daughter who's now a junior in college and she was always public schooled, she will now tell me that she thinks a lot of her schooling was, I don't know that she would really say waste of time, but she feels it was very repetitive. When she took her math entrance exam for college, she's not very good at testing, she never has been, and even though math she's fairly good at, she missed the being able to take a college level math class by a few points, which unfortunately they tell you that. I kind of wish they hadn't, because then she was like, what if I had just gotten one more right? But so she had to take a pre-college class in college, pre-college math class, and she said, Mom, this is, lower elementary level. This is order of operation. Why did I spend all those years taking math, and now I have to repeat it all again, and at our expense, by the way, not free the public school she had gone to. So in her mind, she now looks back and says, wow, a lot of the things I'm doing in college are repetitive of what I did in high school. And, for some things that she likes, she doesn't mind, and she's a writer and she loves that part, but the things that weren't so fun for her, she's like, really, now I have to take it all again. And so to me, that kind of just validated what we're doing, that, if they want to go into neuroscience, chances are, no matter what they've done in high school, whether they've gone to school or not, they're going to be taking preparatory classes in college for that. They may have to take some pre-college level classes, perhaps, depending on where they're at, if it's math or science or things. But no matter where you've come from, you may still have to take that anyways. So I think that it helped me, having that experience with her helped me feel a little bit more comfortable with my daughter, who I'm not sure where she's going to be headed or what she wants to do yet, but I think there's time. I mean, you know, to take those classes, whether it's online or things ahead of time, or when they get there and they figure out what they want to do. So, yes. Oh, sorry,
Go ahead, Zoe.
I just wanted to add that it's not just academic things that some of your kids might want to get into and just be really rigorous. My sister Tegan wants to become a ballerina, and that takes some extremely rigorous ballet training. And we don't know how to do that. We can't help her with that, but we know how to find the resources. And just as a general principle, when your kid wants to get really in-depth into something, you probably won't be an expert on it. If you are, cool, that's awesome. But most likely, you just need to know how to find the right resources.
We are hybrid schoolers, so back to the question of the neuroscience surgeon, whatever it was you were looking at. We do like math, we follow a math and a language arts curriculum, but the rest of it we don't necessarily follow anything specific. And that's where we do our unschooling, and we do a lot of traveling, we do a lot of local things, we do a lot of when we're getting ready to go see someone at the symphony, or we do a lot of symphony stuff, a lot of fine arts stuff. And so that's where we learn a lot on the other side of things. So although we follow a math curriculum pretty regularly, and our language arts pretty regularly, science, history, those sorts of things are we're definitely more on the unschooling side of things. So it's kind of interesting for us because, you know, you go, oh, we unschool, so people are like, you know, they'll ask him, what grade are you in? And he's just like, it depends on which class you want to know about, you know, it depends on that sort of a thing. And so, but again, it's just, if your kid is involved, like Zoe said, if your kid wants to know and wants to like do the math, then you need to put them in the right classes to do the math, and whether it's a co-op or whether it's a college class or something where it's online or a textbook, then you find that out, or if it's science or that sort of a thing. But then you don't have to be so heavy. You don't have to be so heavy in every area. It's just that one area where they're kind of leading the charge on that area.
And I would add to what Nancy was saying, which is some people get really hung up on the label of unschooling or the label of homeschooling or whatever your label is. I mean, yes, this is called unschooling, but really it's what works best for your family, you, your child, your different children. So, I mean, that's a perfect example, having kind of a hybrid thing going on. It's okay. It doesn't. There's some websites you'll go to, and some people are very, very concerned about if you have any sort of curriculum going on, you're not an unschooler.
Right.
I wouldn't worry so much about the labeling part. I would really recommend you really focus on what your kids are interested in, what works for your children. My daughter, for example, earlier this year, wanted to do school. We did it for about a week. It was super exciting to me because there was folders involved, and all that kind of fun back to school supplies stuff. And then it was done, and that was okay. But it's being open to asking your child when, sometimes it's a little harder when they're little, but as they're getting older, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? Is it helpful to you because you want to learn about geology to read a book? Is it to go to a place, to have a worksheet, to take a class?
All of the above.
All of it. It's amazing the resources that are out there, even while you're traveling. Because you can tap into what's in that city. I mean, as Lisa said last night in her talk, some of the travels they've done were specifically to go to a place that was of interest to their children. You can do that. I know when we travel, we try to make it about the family. It might be something that my husband wants to do, or I want to do, or our daughter wants to do. We all kind of suck it up and do it, but maybe it's not our favorite thing. But if you make it a family thing, everybody's learning and having a good time, and will pick out what they want, and that's okay. And I think while you're traveling, really also use the resources you have from this kind of group, because people list places to go and things to do, and maybe present that and go, hey, you know what? We're going to Arizona for a week. Which of these would you like to do? Maybe you really don't want to as the mom, but that's okay. Sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes the kids get a choice too. So in our family, almost always it's the first choice, our kids. So it'll make it a lot more pleasant homeschooling if you really put a lot kind of back onto them, because if they're invested in it, they're gonna really kind of enjoy it and get a lot more out of it, I think. Amanda?
We follow a similar philosophy. It's very unschooling, but we follow the principles of Thomas Jefferson education with that to help us make sure we're staying on track. And having 3 teenagers, in answer to your science, like what they want to do with their life, as we've been unschooling them, focusing on their, whatever their passions are as they're younger and they're getting older. And now we're like, okay, oh, she's gone. I've got a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old. What are you going to do with your life? What is your plan? Where is your passion? Bring us your plan. And our children have brought us there, our 2 oldest ones, we call it a scholar phase. This is my scholar phase. This is my high school. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is how long it's going to take me. These are the books I'm going to read. These are the subjects I want to study. This is how I'm going to do it. I need you to help me find a mentor for this. Can you mentor me in this? Help me get here. And this is where I want to be by the time I'm 18. This is where I want to be by the time I'm 20. We say, great, we agree. Or have you considered that maybe you do need a little math even if you're going to be a musician? How are you going to study your, balance your checkbook? And we have that conversation with them, but it's their education. And that's what I love, that when they go to college, it's not I wasted 12 years of my life studying what someone else told me I needed. I've spent my life learning what I was passionate about, and now I'm ready, based on where I focused my education for this last 3 or 4 years, to move into the career I've chosen.
But just before I move on, Amanda, do you have a, if anyone wants to look up more about Thomas Jefferson education, is it
TJEd.com.
TJEd.com.
And it's not a no-fail win policy. Like, your kids can go to school and go to public school, and I've watched my friends' kids fail out of school. And last year as we hit the road, my daughter had been homeschooled her whole life, and she was set up a year early to finish school, to do this, and she dawdled. She didn't want to read, she didn't want to do anything. So we kind of sat on it for that last year, and she did nothing. And all I asked from her was 15 papers for the entire year. And they were on different subjects that she chose. She just turned in none. And so 6 weeks before she was supposed to graduate, she quit. She moved out, she was 18 years old. And as a homeschooling parent, I'd always homeschooled. So I felt like a huge failure. But she's working down in Oceanside at a little bistro, and she likes what she's doing. And she knows how to read, she knows how to write, she's dyslexic. She did a test at a community college and missed 1 question, and they told her you have to do high school math. And she's like, see, I failed, you failed me. So she put it all back on me. So it's not a full, perfect process, no matter how you school. And she was traditionally schooled at first, and we did Konos for years. So I set myself up kind of to fall into unschooling. And as we had more kids, unschooling just became a natural progression, if that makes any sense at all. But my son being on the road for 9 months, he's learning guitar faster than he could learn it anywhere else because he's meeting so many musicians. And the dynamic's just different. They just own what they love.
Okay. Is it that for those who are, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, and then I'll harass
just
these people over here.
Listening to it. I have my oldest is 12, and he just turned 12, a boy. And I'm just having, as I'm moving into, I've kind of been doing unschooling with him. We had a curriculum that I've been working away from students, focusing more on him and just seeing, because you do start panicking. It's like, oh, he's 12 now, and he's comparing, other friends are saying what they know, but just realizing what he needs. But my problem with him is that he doesn't really have a focus. He's not academically driven. There's nothing. He's like, this is what I'm going to do. But he's just, and he's 12, and he's still a boy. He wants to go outside and torture ants and whatever he's doing. But anytime I do notice a passion in him, and I try to hey, how about we do Lego Club? It's like he loses. Like, no. Once I try to make something, or hey, you love cooking? Let's watch Alton Brown. He's got great stuff. Or whatever. Every time I try to make it, academic. Like you guys are saying, hey, take their focus and move it over here. He doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. He just kind of pulls away, and it's like I ruin it for him. I ruin his playtime or something, and he doesn't want to do anything, And
I think Amanda may have a suggestion.
I do.
Good.
This actually, I'm sure unschoolers do a similar thing, but in TJ there's a big focus on when you leave a curriculum, whether it's public school or anything else, you have to detox. Because your child has been programmed that if mom and dad